So how did Lorenzo get ALD? Well, it all started with Mrs. Sardine and Mr. Sardine and their sperm and egg in the process of meiosis. And meiosis is the early step in sexual reproduction. Interphase is the first step in meiosis, and during interphase, the nucleus is bounded by a nuclear envelope and cells' chromosomes are duplicated in the form of chromatin. So during prophase, each replicated chromosome pairs with its corresponding homologous chromosomes, and doing so, they form tetrads. As they form tetrads, they undergo a process called crossing over, and this is where chromatids exchange data and produces new combinations of allies in the cell. Metaphase 1 is when paired chromosomes line up across the center of the cell, and as the cells move into anaphase, the homologous pairs of chromosomes separate. Anaphase is where spindle fibers pull each homologous chromosomes pairs towards opposite ends of the cell. During telophase, a nuclear membrane forms around each cluster of chromosomes, and during cytokinesis, it forms two new non-identical cells. So now on to meiosis 2, the second stage of meiosis. During prophase, chromosomes each consisting of two chromatids become visible. And in prophase 2, they do not form tetrads because in meiosis 1, the homologous pairs are already separated. During metaphase 2, chromosomes line up in the center of each cell, and as the cell enters anaphase, the paired chromatids separate. During telophase and cytokinesis 2, nuclear membranes forms around each cluster of chromosomes, and they form 4 haploid daughter cells, and each cells are non-identical. After the haploid eggs are formed, in males there are sperm, while in females there are eggs. So, how did Lorenzo get ALD? Well, it all started with Mrs. Sardine and Mr. Sardine in a process called sexual reproduction. During sexual reproduction, a sperm and an egg get fertilized and form a zygote. So, during sexual reproduction, the egg and the sperm pass down a sex chromosome. Mr. Sardine passed down a Y chromosome, while Mrs. Sardine passed down an X chromosome. And on the X chromosome, it had the ALD gene on it, and then she passed it on to Lorenzo. So during sexual reproduction, you get half of your mom's DNA and half of your dad's DNA. So in this case, Mr. and Mrs. Lorenzo passed down 3 abnormal chromosomes each and 1 sex chromosome, and then that leaves Lorenzo with 2n equals 8. So how does the process of meiosis and sexual reproduction bring out variation? Well, meiosis brings out variation because during fertilization, you get 1 gamete from your mom and 1 from your dad, and therefore you form a zygote. The recombination and independent assortment creates a new, different, unique DNA, and that is why meiosis increases variation.